Well, and I always say with liberty and whatever it is for some.
We're artists, I'm telling
We're going to call the meeting to order.
you.
It's so nice to see you here, Councilperson Lara. Would you like to join us since we're on TV? You could sit over there that says Mimi Moore, just turn that upside down. Unless you want to be Mimi. Okay. We're going to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, and Michael will lead us.
She said to sit there, so I'm sitting there.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Michael. Okay. I see no one for presentations tonight, and I will just ask that perhaps later on in commissioner reports that Roger Conrad will tell us a little bit about what's new in this room. Yes. That I think would it be better to do it later and commission things, or can we do that right now?
Madam Chair, might I recommend that you do roll call?
We should do roll call. Roll call.
Commissioner Stobo?
Here.
Commissioner Conrad?
Here.
Commissioner Harmon?
Here.
Commissioner Hirsch?
Here.
Vice Chair Addison?
here.
Chair Golden?
Here.
And also with us, we have our Councilmember Lara as our City Council liaison. Thank you for being here, Councilmember. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Now we'll go back to, is it out of order if Roger talks about what's new in the room now, or do you want to do that later?
No, that's fine. If the commission is fine with that adjustment on the agenda, you can certainly do that.
Okay, go.
Okay, this was a surprise to me too, but they've changed all the fluorescent bulbs in here to a warm bulb, and you'll find that it's actually much more similar to our halogens out there. And like one little demonstration I can give you. Oh, okay, all the other details. This is a little spotlight that we use. And you can see it used to be a dramatic change when you'd have it on, but now the color temperature is pretty much about the same.
Nice, nice.
And for you for fluorescent bulb fans, it's a 32 watt 48-inch T8, which is the latest in the fluorescent bulb things. And those are also green bulbs, so they're much more energy efficient. So.
What's really nice is having
Put your mic on.
having them all the same color.
Thank you.
It's very distracting to see pinks and greens and other colors, and now at least they're all in the same color.
One of the interesting issues was the diffusers and the discoloration of the diffusers that occur over time, and they start to yellow, and that was having a huge impact on the light. It was actually more difficult to find the replacement diffusers than to acquire the lights. But with the combination of the two, it's obviously made a marked difference. So thank you to Commissioner Conrad for his suggestion and guidance on that, and also to James Hahn with our staff for making it happen.
Yes, and it's noticeable.
It's a big difference.
It's noticeable. Yes, so thank you from all of us. Okay, public comment. Seeing no public, we'll move on. Approval of the minutes of we'll start with the April 17th meeting, the regular meeting. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve those minutes, or we have some corrections from Barbara?
Okay, on the sixth line of the peace pole concept for Ojai City Hall,
Excuse me, Barbara, will you make sure that you're talking into the mic? Thank you.
the sixth line of the peace pole concept for City Hall, delete the second word "at." And in the second to last line, the commission's public art committee, it should be the acquisitions committee. On page 2, the last motion, or number C, should be the mentor program, not the Arts Ojai program. And on page 4,
That's the title there.
yeah, the
Yeah.
title. I don't, this is a personal thing, but under 7, it says, member Lara informed the Arts Commission on what the city council has been working on. You know, that doesn't mean anything. I'd like to know what he said.
Where are you, Barbara? I'm sorry.
Seven.
This is
Page
page
four.
4, number 7.
Oh, okay.
And that does appear in the notes. So I think even if it were just a few words, it would be helpful for us to remember, because of course you spoke about what the city council was doing, but what was it that they were doing?
We're happy to make that addition and bring that back to the commission.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any corrections to the minutes? Any of the chairs under your section?
Yes, on page 5, under roll call, there's Robert Conrad, the famous actor, and I don't think he was there. So.
We had the famous arts commissioner, though, instead.
Love it.
Thank you.
We love that.
Good catch.
On page 6, page 6, under goals, under 1 and 4 in the parentheses, it's education with an E.
Spelling,
Oh,
typo.
yeah, I see it.
It says
I-
DDUCATION.
Yeah.
It's just a typo.
ED, education instead of D.
Oh, yeah, it's a
Education.
typo.
And then on the bottom of the page, under B, under the Artist Mentor Program, and I think that we should decide what we're calling that. But it's Jimmy Cleary, C-A-L-I-R-E,
Yeah.
and Kyle Crowner, C-R-O-W-N-E-R.
How do you spell Cleary again?
C-A-L,
C-A-L-I-R-E.
Oh, Caleri.
yes, as in Caleri.
Thank you. Not Cleary, Caleri. E. Gotcha.
On page 7,
Should we, before you move on, should we decide about the mentor program? If you're gonna
is
call
it going to
that.
be the
Well,
mentor?
this is correcting minutes, so when we get to the report
We'll
on
do it
that,
later.
perhaps
Okay,
Michael will
all right.
announce a short and truncated title for his committee, or maybe not.
On
Well, we
page
might discuss
7,
it, but that would be an action item, so we'd have to agendize
No, it
that.
wouldn't be, it would just be a report that you're making. It's your discretion, sure.
Oh, okay.
on page
Absolutely.
7, again, it's the Arts Acquisition Committee, in the last 2 lines.
I'm
A G,
Arts acquisition, it's
Oh.
under G, the
Under
last
G?
2 lines.
yes.
Instead of Arts Commission, it should be Arts
Right, Arts
Acquisition.
Acquisition Committee.
Well, we don't have committee by any of the other titles.
All right, well, then it's Arts Acquisition, but it's not Arts Commission.
It's in the body of the, it's the second.
Oh, I see, it's in the second line. I thought you were looking at the title. I apologize. No. So, do you see that,
the urgency
Steve?
for the,
Here. G,
uh,
where's G?
here?
Yes, this shouldn't say commission, this should say acquisitions, match that.
Oh, okay.
And it should be arts, too.
On page 8, the 3rd paragraph, same thing.
Before you go to there, let's stay at the same place we were, because I just saw something too, which is, I lost it. Country in the 3rd line after the correction for commission is not a capital. It's a small letter. So there.
Principal, always a principal.
Page
Once a language
8.
arts teacher, always a language arts teacher.
Page 8, the third paragraph.
Thank you, Barbara, for waiting.
Again, we have no information on what was discussed.
On the council?
On the peace poll
Under the
donation,
peace poll donation.
so that needs expansion,
Not on page 8?
and you'll bring that back?
I'm sorry, I'm not seeing it.
Staff liaison McClary and Commissioner Harmon
Oh, okay.
reported on the peace poll donation, and we want a little more information there for the record.
Okay,
So that can come back for approval next time.
yep.
Okay? That'll come back on, next time for approval.
Thank you so much.
Is anyone else? You haven't had a chance to look at your section, we can take a few minutes for everyone to do that. I'm gonna look at mine. Well, I do have a comment I want to make. It's not a correction, but as I read through underneath committee reports, there is a lot of detail and information in some places, almost where you wouldn't need it, and then where you do need it, there isn't. So I don't know what we do to massage that. Is that the right word? I mean, it's like all of this. Under City Gallery is a good example. All those bullet points are extraneous because what was decided was that we were going to bring a discussion of the future of City Gallery back to this meeting tonight. And that's really all that needed to be stated there. But then on the
Commissioners-
other places where Barbara noted, we wanted information and it wasn't. Is there a way to address that?
I think you just did, so.
Okay,
If there's,
good.
if the commission's not satisfied with the minutes, or feels anything's inaccurate, or wants further detail, I would say, though, that the critical thing to focus on is to make sure that we have the factual information correct, the votes and the actions correct. It's a bit of a slippery slope when you start getting into, how much discussion and detail you want to get in there. And of course, we're limited by staff time on that, but certainly
understood.
we want it to be accurate, and if there's information in the minutes that the commission's not seeing and they want in there, then we can certainly make that adjustment.
Okay. Any other corrections to the minutes? Or additions, deletions? Then we need a motion to approve the minutes as corrected.
So moved.
Second from Barbara.
Excuse me, point of order, Madam Chair. I thought that you had wanted these to come back with the additions of the
So we
additional
don't approve them
information.
when they come back?
Approve them when they come back.
Right, I thought you wanted to make the modifications.
So what do we do then?
Well, I would say if it had just been the corrections, you could have all consented to those corrections and then approved them as amended. But it sounds like the commission wants additional information in there. So it would seem that we should make those changes and then bring it back on the agenda for the commission to consider and approve at that time.
So they would get approved at the next meeting then?
Right.
Okay,
Yes,
so
we would be able to bring
Is
them
there
back at the next
some-
meeting.
What do? We just say we're tabling it, or?
Well, you've given direction to staff on corrections to the minutes, and that'll be noted in the minutes, and we'll make those changes and bring it back.
Thank you. And then we'll move on then to the approval of the minutes of the May 15th special and regular meetings.
I think you had the same issue there. We just moved from one set to the next,
Oh, we did them together.
and there was some additional information in
Sure
the
did.
May 15th
Okay.
as well, so.
So we can move on then to number 5?
Weren't those just corrections then?
Well,
Just corrections, weren't they?
no, I'm sorry, Commissioner, there were a couple of areas where it was requested some more information on what was actually discussed. So we would need to add that and bring that in and come back, unless the commission is comfortable with giving direction to staff to put that in, but I wouldn't recommend that.
Could I
Yeah, there is.
revise what I said?
Certainly.
I don't need that I don't feel that we need that information exactly now. I'm just saying for the
Okay.
future.
Understood.
For the future, it would be good to have even 2 words about what was said.
I clearly understand the request. So, yeah, I mean, certainly it's the commission's prerogative in terms of what they want to do with these minutes this evening.
I would suggest that we go ahead and accept these minutes with the full understanding by staff of what the issue has been raised, and then we move forward.
Is that acceptable, Mr. McClary, that we can drop the request to have anything come back and go ahead and approve these minutes?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the minutes with the understanding as Michael delineated, and we have a second on that from Barbara. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Okay, so the minutes stand approved as corrected. Let's go to discussion and action items. First, we have a report regarding the budget from Mr. McClary. Wants to give us an update on what the latest action has been or discussion.
So the city council at their June 10th workshop specifically had an item on for discussion, which I think you were aware of, regarding the request from the Arts Commission for its budget for fiscal year 14-15. The city council was considering other requests for the budget, including a request from the museum. What the direction from the council ultimately after the discussion was to increase the Arts Commission budget by $5,000 for fiscal year 14-15. So that is not the full request that the Arts Commission brought forward, but it would be an increase of $5,000 above the current fiscal year amount. So I think we're at 20,000 now, so that would be 25,000. That was the direction from the council. They did take a vote on that. However, the final action of adoption of the budget will appear before the council on June 24th. I'm not anticipating any further discussion on that unless a member of the council asks to bring that up, since it's already been discussed and they've given their direction. But it is not completely finalized.
Do we have an opportunity at the June 24th meeting to address the concerns that were brought up by Councilperson Smith regarding the mentor program and why she seemed to indicate that the expenses for that program and for the education program, the Arts Ojai education program, were not perhaps on target? Do we have an opportunity to address that at the June 24th meeting?
I don't see why not.
I apologize. I wasn't at the meeting. Can you tell me what her reservations were?
I was given the information that Councilperson Smith felt that since the mentor program only served one artist and one student, that would be in competition with museum programs that served a wider public. And I would have loved, and the public hearing came and went, and no one made any comments. And since we had gotten such positive vibes from staff recommending that we would get $30,000, I left the meeting. I thought it was over and done with. But then later on in the meeting, the topic came up, and of course, no one was there from the Arts Commission at that point to say anything in response. And the feeling was, it's one student, one artist, and that's not enough to justify city expenditure. And so there was no opportunity to say, but wait a minute, let's take a look at what happened last year. Let's take a look at Chance Lang and how he brought people in to Oh Yes Theater to hear his performance because of what happened here. And that brought people into town. It brought people having dinner. Think of the effect that any one of those kids had on their peers, the fact that they were in that program, and encouraging other kids to do this with their summertime, to actually be involved in a program. Think about the increase in the number of mentors, artist mentors that came forward this year. That program had a marked effect on the city of Ojai. It was an unbelievable success, but no one was able to say that. All that the council member heard were one point of view, which was it's one student and one artist, so therefore you can't compare that to the museum, which is asking. Somehow we were put up in competition with the museum, and I would have liked to have spoken to that. I don't think we should have been. So my question is, can I speak to this at the June 24th meeting? I feel a little blindsided by it, quite frankly.
Staff does not give opinions on recommendations from the commission, and nor did we ever give an opinion on the commission's request. We forwarded it to the city manager, and he brought it to the city council. The city council had a discussion. They took input, I believe, from you and some other members of the commission, and they heard from several members of the museum. And they had their discussion, and they made their decision.
Well, I guess the question then is to be put to Councilman Laura. Is there an opportunity for us to speak again? You know, I find it really perverse in a way that we're being put in competition with the museum. We serve a totally different function than the museum does. That's one issue. The issue relating to the artist-student mentor program, I find really incredibly narrow-minded. I would like to point out to the council, for example, that I've received a phone call from the chair of the County Art Commission inquiring about this program and seeing it as a model program that he wants other art commissions throughout the county to emulate because of the impact it will have on the individual students, certainly, but more importantly, as a model for other students to seek the same sort of opportunity. And I think for us to be dealt with in this way suggests a very strange sort of narrow banding of how the council is dealing with the arts if they lump all of us together.
Can I say something before? I kind of feel like it from what I'm understanding, it was Councilman Smith that said this. I would say, address your issues to Councilwoman Smith and CC all the other members. But I just think taking time out of a public, I think it'd be nice to be able to do it ahead of time, maybe meet with them if you wanted to. Could they do that, or does it have to be in a public meeting?
I think it's important it's in a public meeting. I think the public, because everyone that heard that public comment had no other point of view. So I think it's important that the public also understand how successful this program was and the kind of impact it did have on the economic health of this community. I don't think it should be done. I want it to happen in public. Is that allowed?
Chair Golden, well, thank you for having me. But just recalling what happened in the meeting, we did raise, Council Member Blatz did raise the issue of why we were why we were putting the arts and the Ojai Museum in one grouping, I guess, for that money. And I think that Councilmember Smith had her own ideas. I think as a council, we're trying to figure out the best way of budgeting, just in general, and I think that's where her reservations only. So, but I think that if the Arts Commission wants to come back to the council and address some of the issues and why certain programs are valuable, I think you have the right to do it, and I would defer to staff regardless. But just remember that that's just one person's opinion. That wasn't the whole decision of why we only gave $5,000. I would have personally liked to have given the whole amount of money, and I think Council Member Blatz did too. But that's for the council to decide to direct staff to figure that out if everybody on the council was to agree. Now, there's other point of views here. Mayor Strobel has her own personal view on things, and so this council member Clapp. But if you guys want to come and talk about it some more, I don't see why not. I mean, but just remember that these are really good points, and that we're looking at it as a whole budget item. But our final, I don't necessarily think and I'll defer back to Steve, we do have to have the budget, let me start here. We do have to have the budget approved by June 31st, right?
You want to have
yeah.
it, you want to have it adopted prior to July 1st, if ideally.
Yeah.
Right?
So ideally, we want to have it to 24th, but you could come with your ideas and see if you could convince the majority of the council to direct staff to find a way to include that amount of money in your budget.
Well, my understanding is that staff recommended our budget to be
Yeah.
30, and it was the comments by Councilwoman Smith that cut that amount in half and went to 25 instead of 30, which is a $5,000 instead of 10,000. But staff
Yeah.
went along with very close to what we asked for the
Yeah.
budget. So to have that suddenly cut in half.
And again, I agree that was the choice of the majority of the council.
Yeah, but I don't think the
And-
majority of the council was able to hear any kind of counterpoint to the issues that were raised at the end of that meeting.
And I
Not
would-
during the
yeah.
public hearing,
And-
but at the end of the meeting, which I have no idea was going to even come up for discussion. I would have stayed.
And I would invite you then to put it on the agenda,
Okay.
and we could look at it. And I'm sure Steve knows the procedure of how to get that on the agenda.
Well, but the budget's on the agenda for the June 24th meeting already. There's a public hearing scheduled.
So I would be able to put a speaker card in, and Michael would too, to speak to that during the budget portion of that meeting on June 24th.
Yeah. And
Okay.
Steve, are you able to include that in the agenda, like one of the points that we talk about, or?
Well, remember the council has directed that the packet go out a week prior to the meeting. So that packet went out earlier this week.
Yes.
What's the exact question?
I
though?
guess my question is specific so that the council is aware that the art commission wants to talk about the budget, why they think they deserve more money. Is that possible to
Sure, you can always send a
include it?
communication.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I
yeah,
would say the wording might be why the Art Commission would like council to consider
That's right.
staff's recommendation, which was $30,000.
Yeah.
I think we need to be careful to not rely on hearsay evidence of what was said at that meeting. Councilman Smith may have said things along the lines that you've heard, but none of us were at the meeting when those decisions were made. I think we also need to recognize that, as Councilman Laura suggests, it is a complex budgeting process, and it isn't unusual for staff recommendations to be received, analyzed, and then changed. You know, as much as I would like full support for what we're doing, at the same time, I recognize that that's the nature of the process, that we got a $5,000 increase, I think is significant. So I'm not convinced that it's to our advantage to make a big issue of this. I think we should perhaps graciously accept the fact that our work is being recognized, we've received a budget increase, and continue the good fight next year and seek another increase next year.
That's what I was trying to say when I was talking about writing a letter and addressing, just readdressing the facts and saying, I heard there was some discussion after we left, and I'd just like to, let you know that we feel that the program affects more than just the mentor and the student, and lay it out for them and say, we're very grateful for your support, and I hope this makes it more clear.
So clearly, two people would prefer us not to pursue going back to staff's recommendation. And I'd like to hear from Heather. What do you think? Should we just let this fly then?
I do think there is something to be said about defending our program. But I also think that there's some, that, if we need to correct, if there's misconceptions, if the council is not seeing what we're doing correctly, then I think, yes, we do have to correct that. But I also do agree that we did get an increase. And to kind of open up that fight again, I don't know if it's the best idea.
Roger?
I think to sort of clarify what their concerns were, when it was talking about the budget, it wasn't comparing the museum to the arts grants program, or not the arts grants program, the art commission programs. And what Councilman Smith's complaint was that she was saying that the mentor program was for basically 3 students, and she also said the Arts 21 program was very poorly attended, and so she felt that those particular things were not worthy of being extended in that particular regard. And also, the Arts Commission was asking for a 50% increase going from...
Which is not accurate. It was not 50%.
Well, no, in terms of the proposal, because we went from 20,000 to 30,000, so that's a 50%, even though we were actually asking for 32.5, I believe it was the final one. So we're reaching a lot more, so...
So your recommendation, therefore, would be?
Well, I think would be good is to, because you're right, there wasn't anybody, like I was actually at the meeting, but I have a conflict of interest because I am employed by the museum, and so it's kind of difficult and I didn't think appropriate for me to do that. And also I didn't have the points that Mike suggested, which I think if I had spoken, like if I had spoken, would say that it's basically a fledgling program, and they all start out small, but it is very important. But I think he has the feedback, which is really good. So I would think to maybe present that in a letter to them as kind of an answer to Councilman Smith, but an open letter to the City Council would probably be good.
Now, when you say an open letter,
Well, a
I'm
letter
assuming that an open letter would be one that would be read at the meeting,
Yeah,
at
I'm
the
sorry.
June 24th meeting.
I hadn't thought that part out, and I misspoke by saying open letter. I think somehow to communicate to the council via a letter would be the appropriate
Okay,
thing to do.
and not worry about the public's impression that those programs are not successful.
Well, that's a good point too. So,
Because that's the impression that
well,
was left.
The other
And you can
thing
watch
that-
this on tape. Those who say, Michael had mentioned that, we don't know what was said. You can watch it on YouTube. You can see
Right.
it for yourself.
Yeah. So that might be speaking well to at least presenting the case, not to gripe for that, but to
Mhm.
basically answer the questions. Yeah.
All right, thank you. And Linda, do you want to say more? Because you already spoke.
I was just going to say that even if, whatever was said, those are opinions. It's a total budget package. I really believe that they should be answered, but I really feel that it's best to be done with the people involved, the councilmen. 'Cause they're the ones
And
that
also
make the
not worry
decisions.
about the impression left with the public.
Yeah, because I think
Okay.
they know better. I mean, I'm sorry. We've been very active, we put it out there, and I think people know better than that. You can't, it hurts when you hear that kind of thing,
Yeah.
when you work so hard, but on the other hand, it's, people say things that they don't always
Okay.
are accurate.
Thank you, Linda. Barbara?
Okay. I just heard something which I didn't know about the Art 21 program. That is a completely free program. We didn't spend 1 cent of city money. We got the films directly from PBS, and Khaled Alawar donated the theater. So
That should be
Any-
included in the letter.
any complaint about money spent for that is totally inaccurate. I would like that to be part of the letter.
I think that's great.
Yeah, and I agree with the.
We're going to go to Michael, and then we'll come back to you. So Michael is next.
No, I would certainly support a letter of the sort that's being discussed now that includes all of this information and sent to all of the council members with a request that they reconsider our allocation. But I think that's as much as is needed. And I think that would be effective and
And then this
exacerbate the situation.
letter would, since the June 24th meeting is next Tuesday, this letter would have to be written looked at by all of you, sanctioned by all of you, and somehow gotten to everybody before next Tuesday?
Not necessarily.
No? Well, that's when isn't that when they're making the decision about the budget?
Could give some specific direction to the chair and what they would like to see in the budget and ask the chair to write the letter. That is a way that you could do it.
But what I'm saying is it has to be done and gotten to council before, and read by them before next Tuesday.
Or at the meeting.
But you all feel really strongly, I'm getting, that you don't want that letter to be read at the meeting. You trust that it's going to be read by them. Okay. How will that letter get to them, Steve?
If it's something that needs to be addressed for that meeting, we'll copy it, email it to them, whatever it takes to get it to them.
Yeah. I'm hearing all of you, and I'm at your discretion. Whatever you tell me to do is what I'm going to do. You are directing me. But I'm going to protest a little bit, because I don't know when I can possibly, between now and Tuesday, sit down and write a letter. It takes a lot of time. There are several points. I have to be in contact with Barbara. I have to be in contact with Michael for at least 2 of those points, and get it ready and get it there, as opposed to going to the meeting on Tuesday and speaking to these issues. Not, we want you to change the budget, but that, because I hear that. You don't want us to pressure that. But to just stand up and say, we just want to be sure that everybody understands. In fact, I like Michael to come and talk about the program and say how it has benefited, so the public can hear it. I really think the public needs to hear it. I don't think they know. They know what was said at that city council meeting, and that's what they think. And then Barbara, you could certainly give me the information about explaining that there was no money spent on the films, and just to say that in a very mild way. Because I don't know how I'm going to get a letter written.
I mean, if I get a transcript of what our notes were, I can write a letter and I can send it to you. I have no problem doing it. I just think it's really important that we approach it in a systematic way. I think it's better than speaking, personally.
I agree.
If we had another week, I could figure out how to fit this in, but we just don't have time.
Well,
Well,
Linda has
it-
just
it
made an
should-
offer to draft
Yes,
a
but that letter has to be edited and looked at, and it's, I just don't, today is Thursday.
I support having what you suggested, Christine, to go ahead and talk to the meeting and not harangue about us not getting the money, but to really clarify the issues that were brought up.
Programs.
And I think that's also good to have the public hear that too. So I think that would be the most expeditious way to do, and both you folks are very well spoken, and I think we'd do a great job.
So we have 2 directions here. One is a letter, which we could always have a follow-up letter after the speech, if
I don't think there's a point to it after it. I mean, we're going to do
but
one
I
or the
just wanted to
other.
offer that option. So we have 2 directions. Obviously, I'm favoring standing up, and hopefully, Michael, you could make the meeting and speak for that program. And again, not to ask them to increase it, to thank them for what we are getting, the $5,000, but just to say that we want to make clear some points about those 2 programs that we think maybe were heard or whatever, gentle words. So, which direction are we going to go in?
Well, I move that we do it at the meeting. Okay.
So, Roger, you're putting a motion about this?
Sure, that sounds good.
Mm-hmm. Then we
Yeah.
need a
So I
second.
move that we have you and Michael go to the meeting, and Barbara, if she'd like to be there too.
And Barbara can't
Okay.
be there, but
Yeah,
she can feed me what I need.
yeah, so
I'm meeting with you anyway Monday. So, well, we need a second on that motion, then.
I'll second that.
Okay, second by Barbara. Heather? Roger? Linda? No? Barbara?
No.
And a yes. So there are 2 noes and 5 yeses? 4, because Mimi is absent, 1 absence.
something, though?
A motion passes.
Obviously, there's the issues of what just happened.
Yeah,
But we have to make sure moving forward, when we're submitting our budget, that these things are clear. It's on. That these things are clarified, that, that we're addressing everything, that, that we're tooting our own horn about how great these programs work. We're specifying that other programs aren't taking city money, that these are fledgling programs that are gonna grow, that the first year is always a little slow, that we don't put ourselves in this position of having to defend ourselves after the fact, that there has to be
Thank
a
you.
way of addressing this
thank you.
in the beginning.
And I would like to maybe suggest that we could do this during the beginning of the meeting in public comments portion, so that it isn't like just about the budget, but it's more about, we want the public to know that this is what this program has done, and this is what this program means to do, and approach it that way. So we would do it during public comments, fill out a speaker card.
Yeah, you just cannot speak generally during public comments on an item that's on the agenda.
But it
so-
wouldn't be about the budget. It
Yeah.
would be about clarifying those two programs. Because
Right.
it's very clear from everyone here that we're not going to go fight to get that 30,000. We just want to clarify about those two programs. Correct? I've got the right direction.
Yeah, that
Okay,
makes
Michael,
sense.
you voted no, but can you be there?
Be there.
Okay, great, thank you. We'll let you know how it goes, the rest of you. All right. Anything else, Mr. McCleary, on budget report that we didn't cover?
Well, unless there's any questions with the budget status report that was in the packet. I did speak with Commissioner Addison prior to the meeting, and we're coordinating on getting the money out for the Student Artist Mentor Program, or whatever we're going to be calling that these days. So that will be expended shortly. And of course, you still have money remaining in the art acquisitions and a little bit in public art maintenance as well. There's a little bit of money in Lifetime Achievement Awards. We're going to see if we can order some additional bezels or medallions with this fiscal year's funds, since we have a little bit left in there. We did add in the column with the amount remaining to make that a little more clear. So I hope that addressed that.
Thank you.
And beyond that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Is it fair to say to everyone that this money needs to be spent by?
Invoices need to be dated by June 30th, and we need anything that we're trying to expend for this year, we need to have those invoices in by the end of July. So we still have a little bit of time and a little bit of wiggle room.
So as each of the chairs looks at their budget amounts that still remains, you kind of know that there's a little bit of a push to get those receipts in. Okay, so please note that. Thank you. Anybody else on the budget? Well, that was a healthy and lively discussion. I felt my feet being held to the fire. Good. That was good. Keep me on my toes. Let's move on then to Arts Ojai. That really is Arts Ojai Education Committee. And I'm going to give the corrections to the committee names as we move along, and if we need them, so that in the future the agenda will accurately reflect the names of those committees. So it's Arts Ojai Education Committee. Barbara.
I don't have a lot to add from what I said last month. I'm working on the program for October and November. There's a whole new series that is going to be premiered in October, and we're going to be one of the premiere showing places. It's Series 7, and that's basically what I have to report for today.
Okay. Any questions from anyone for Barbara? These are going to be second Saturday.
Second Saturday,
Okay, starting in
October.
October. So for anyone who's watching in the public, they are free. They are held at the,
At the Ojai Playhouse at 11 o'clock on Saturdays.
second Saturday of the month. It's a wonderful way to start your Saturday off to come. And by the way, not only did that program not spend any money, it actually created money. We actually received a number of dollars toward the mentor program from those events. How much was that?
We collected approximately $350 last year from that program in donations from the public.
So we made money for the city.
Part of that part of the idea of that program is to create a lifestyle change or a lifestyle opportunity where you're out shopping on Saturday morning for groceries, but you can just stop in. It's free, it's easy, and you can learn something. And the programs are really outstanding.
Anyone else? Arts Ojai Education. Then we'll move on to the Mentor Program Committee. That's Michael.
Well, first, a report on student applications. The number of applications was down this year, and the reason for that, I'm positive, is that it was delayed by, I think, 10 days, as opposed to last year in terms of getting information to the student population. And in discussing this with teachers and students as well, what I learn is that last couple of weeks of school, not surprisingly, is jam-packed with senior projects, special projects, school activities, finals, etc., college applications, etc. So my intent, and I've discussed this briefly with the committee, is that we will kick that process back into the calendar year so that the student applications essentially will be dealt with during the month of April before they are slammed by all of that sort of thing. And I think we get a much stronger response. I did visit classrooms this time, but again, because it was at that time when students are so focused on so many other things, it took an extra effort to get their attention. So next year, the intent is to change the calendar so that the whole process starts sooner. And I think it's also going to be important to send some sort of written communication to the student population. I don't know whether that should be a one-page brochure of some sort, or whether we could do an email blast through the various schools. If that's possible, that would be a much easier thing to do, and I think it's the world that the students live in anyway.
I think it would be possible to do the email blast, but you'd have to go through the Ohio Unified.
Yeah,
And-
through the various schools, the school district, and then Nordoff and Ojai Valley School and Thatcher as well. But we did receive strong applications. That's the good news, to the point where we have already decided on the student mentor relationships with Kyle Crowner in fabric arts, with Jimmy Caleri in music, and Gail Hersher in mosaic arts. Tomorrow, we will be, 2 members of the committee will be observing while the artists interview the 3 candidates that we have as possible students to work with the pair, Elise Pogofsky-Harris and Linda Taylor. Our function will be strictly to observe so that it isn't a committee meeting of any sort. The artists themselves will make the decision. We just want to be there to watch the process. The second item, the action item, I had a long conversation with Norman Clayton, the letterpress artist that we've been speaking of, and his feeling is that he would rather it was put off and he would like to apply again next year. Given the fact that we're now already into the summer, the student population is dispersed, and so on. So I am, on that basis, withdrawing the request to reallocate funds for that additional mentor for the following year. The only other thing I would like to suggest is that henceforward we call it the Artist Mentor Program. The Artist Student Mentor is sort of clumsy. I think the word artist and mentor combined really says what the program is about. And as it continues to flourish, that will become common knowledge anyway. And that is all I have to report.
Any questions for Michael? Or comments?
Well, this kind of harks back to the budget thing. I think there were matching funds that you got for the mentor program before, and that wasn't brought up at the meeting also, so that would be very valuable.
I think actually at the budget session that Christine and I attended, I think I did mention that the Education Foundation, in fact, has doubled their contribution to the program. So this year they're giving $1,500 to the program. And it's that sort of leverage that I would think would be applauded and supported by the council, right? But we'll speak to that on Tuesday.
Yes, thank you, Roger, for noting that.
Boy, what would they say if their budget got cut?
Woo! Humor was needed, thank you. Anyone else, questions, comments for Michael before we move on? Okay, terrific, thank you, Michael. Heather, City Gallery.
So we've been.
And Heather, why don't you move the mic a little closer, because you're soft-spoken.
Is that better? So we had a meeting and we discussed the direction that we wanted to take City Gallery. And what we've come up with is basically using it. I mean, we have a set schedule right now that's going to take us, I think, at least through November. And let me quickly add a note on that. There was basically an open spot for next month. And I talked to Dana Tartaglia, and I think we're in discussion. She's out of town. I'm going to meet with her and look at her work to see if we can fill that spot. And her spot, which is now slotted for October, will become the show for the mentor program. No, it's not student mentor program. So that's on board now. But I think regardless, we want to keep the October slot for the mentor program for that show. If everyone agrees on that.
Okay.
Okay, and so moving forward with our plans or our recommendation for the City Gallery is that it becomes, after the schedule's fulfilled, a place to show the permanent collection, but with a flexible kind of schedule open. So if we do, for example, if we have the student mentor program, we can incorporate that. Or we can, if we come up, if there's a certain artist that we all agree that we want to show, we will do that. But for the most part, it will be a place to exhibit the permanent collection. And I think that's covering the bases. Is there?
Any questions for Heather on that recommendation or clarification that's needed on what the recommendation is? From anyone? Barbara?
I'd like to see the possibility of having people make appointments for walkthroughs of the permanent collection with some, kind of a docenting program, if possible, or a brochure about the permanent collection.
I think that'd be terrific. So just kind of question, would that be a certain kind of days that are set up throughout the week, or just by appointment?
I don't know. I think that we ought to advertise that a special appointment could be made for that.
I think that's a great idea.
And that we should all be conversant with all of the art so that any one of us could fill that position.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we can decide when and where, or, if it becomes a permanent thing, but I don't think I think it's best by special appointment.
I think that's a great idea.
I love the idea of that, but I also know that the museum has a rough time keeping their visitor center staffed. So are you thinking we would take it on as a commission, or what were you thinking about that?
Well, who comes to see the city collection? I mean, I think it's important that we include the public more. And I thought that that might be a way of doing it. We could have, you know, twice a year, we could have an opening, you know, to do that. I don't know what the method would be or the timing, but I just feel that we have some wonderful things that we want to share with the city, and actually with the entire valley, and visitors. So we should make it known.
I think that's a great idea, and I really like the idea of doing occasional openings, especially when we have new acquisitions and such. You know, so the public becomes aware of what we're doing.
So Barbara's suggestions would go back then to the City Gallery Committee to figure out a plan for implementing a docent program, for creating a brochure, and for possibly having some sort of open reception to show off am I hearing it right? The collection to the public.
And this will also be something that, when we have the app, will be part of that.
Right.
That will be, you know, featured.
Right.
That's really important.
Any other questions or comments on anything related to that?
I know it's a lot of work, but I still hate to see the opportunity for artists to display in City Hall. I hate to see that go away.
It's not going away. It's just going to be scaled back a little.
Duly noted. Linda?
A quick question, if I may, Madam Chair. Do you know, Commissioner Hirsch, do you have a concept in mind who would do the docent when the tours?
That's kind of what I was asking.
Well, I think that it would be on our website, you know, I mean, my name is on there for certain things, Linda's name is on there for certain things. We would call and arrange. I don't think that we're gonna be flooded.
No.
With,
Right.
requests.
No, I don't either, yeah.
And I can get some information on how that works in Ventura. Let me find out how they do it, and I'll bring back that information to your committee.
So is your concept that you would have a volunteer from the community or a commissioner that would lead the tour?
Well, I don't know.
Okay.
I mean,
This is for the committee to discuss, isn't it?
Okay.
Yeah, the committee should discuss that.
Very good.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, well, wow. That's a real new direction for that committee, and I applaud your willingness to take on a kind of a new sport. So I'm looking forward to the first big reception, and what it is you're going to do. Can we move on? Does anyone else have anything for City Gallery? No? Barbara, Public Art.
We are in the process of reorganizing with the new ordinance. We have lots of paperwork that has to be changed, and that's what we're working on. It's not very interesting, but that's what we're working on, including the website. And I spoke to Linda and Heather just before the meeting. There are some inconsistencies from when we first made the website with public art and with the Changing Art Sculpture program. So we're going to deconnect those, delink those, and work on them, and then they'll be back into the program again.
I might add, we'll probably have to do the same thing with City Gallery, so once you guys decide what you're doing.
Yeah, there'll be some updates to the website for sure.
So we're working on the packet that developers get. I would like to make a request, Steve. I'd like to have a report of all funds that have been collected from the ordinance over the last 5 years. Not, yeah. Or it could be from the beginning, because it's,
Well,
Is that a total?
Because we know what the total is in the public art fund, so.
No,
Be-
that's not what I mean. I mean, how many developers have there been? What
What's
were
the
the
amount?
amounts of
Okay.
each developing project? And
That had an
what
art
year
contribution?
that had an art contribution, right.
Okay.
No, only the art contribution.
Yeah.
That's the number
Right.
that I'm seeking.
Okay,
Because we have some thoughts, and so with that information, we might be able to have a better way of approaching it.
okay. So the past 5 years, all
Or
projects.
if possible, from the beginning, if that's possible.
Let's do it from the beginning, if possible,
From the beginning of the ordinance, when the ordinance
which is
was enacted.
2003.
How many
2003.
public art projects have
Okay.
they been and what the total amount is, correct? Yeah.
Additionally.
And that can go to Barbara, that report. Is that okay?
Additionally, I have attended recently a group called Art Table, which is all art professionals, and they meet. It's a national group. They invited me to come to a meeting that was all about public art. So I met the directors of several public art programs. And I mentioned last year that I wanted to put together a meeting of several arts commissions that work with public art, and am in the process of putting that together for some time this fall. And we're looking to Beverly Hills, Santa Monica, Ventura, Ojai, Santa Barbara, Oxnard. Probably that, I don't know if I mentioned all of them, but we would all get together and have a discussion about the common issues that we face and how we can better address them.
When you say we all get together, do you mean the chair of the various committees? Is
The-
that what you have in mind?
Well, one or two people from each of the commissions could get together, or three. This will be hosted in Ventura, and I think it would be a helpful meeting. That's it.
Any other questions for Barbara? Thank you, Barbara. Mr. Conrad, will you tell us what's going on with arts grants? Because we're ready for that to start once again.
Right. Today's date, we're supposed to discuss and possibly approve the art grants revisions. We had some points that were brought up over the year, and I've tried to address them with the forms. Did you make copies of these?
Yes,
Oh, okay,
we're
great.
passing them around right now.
Okay, well. So what I'll go over just rapidly first is the Art Grant Program 2015. And at the bottom of the third paragraph, there was a line here which addressed one of the concerns about whether people can use less money or not. And this was actually on the previous form, and it says there's limited funding available and some worthy projects, organizations, and artists may not be funded or may receive partial funding only. So that was actually on last year's. I made the change of just underlining that so that it makes it a little bit more, and that's right under where it says a dollar for dollar cash match is required for the amount of funding requested. And so the rest of this, for the most part, is just changing the dates. And one of the things that staff had requested that we loosen up the notification. So I added an extra week to that at the end. Like it says, all grant applicants to receive notification of application
What
approval.
page are you on, Roger?
Well, this would be on the last page 4. Yeah. So that's the last item on there. So
On page 5 of 5?
4 of 4,
4 of 4?
yeah.
I have a 4 of 5.
Well, yeah, you may be on the application form.
Oh, that's up at the top. There was some are on the top and some are at the bottom. The second document's on the bottom. Sorry, I got it.
Oh, I see.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't realize
Two
that.
separate documents, correct?
Yeah, there are 2 separate documents.
I'm gonna
And so when you get it on the internet or whatever, it should be as 2 separate documents.
Okay.
So,
So what got changed there? I'm sorry, Roger.
well, it's
Couldn't
the calendar, the last date on the calendar. We had 1 week for staff to notify the people, and it was indicated that that
Oh.
wasn't enough time. And so now we have it conveniently just before Christmas, so.
Okay.
And then the actual application form, we wanted that to be a little bit easier to understand it. And for some reason, the application previously started with, are you applying as an individual or artist or arts organization? And then the next point was, what are the dates of the project and that sort of thing. What I did was to move up, please list your contact information, so that when you see the application, you'll find number 1 is what you need to look for, which will make it easier for the commissioners, and I think more obvious. That's something that somehow didn't become obvious before, as this has gone through quite a bit. And then there was a comment about wanting to have the actual amount of the grant on the first page, and I thought that was probably not appropriate. And what we're doing now is that I create a summary for all the commissioners, which gives a sentence describing what the project is, who the people are, and what the amounts are. And that's actually easier because that has everything on 1 page. But it will make it easier having the grantee listed as number 1 on the application. And I think that's all the changes.
Thank you, Roger. Any questions from anybody? Terrific. Now, I guess the question that I would ask Mr. McClary is, do we have to vote on accepting this, or is this just, we can just all accept the changes? And he's not here.
You know, I think this
Consider
is,
approval, it says on the agenda, so,
I think this is a good example of how this is a project that we've been working on for several years. Just a few years ago, this document was kind of put together, and it's been massaged a few times, and I think now it's really, really good.
Thank you. Great. One point that was suggested was making it a standardized form where people could actually type in on that, and I'm not quite sure. You know, obviously, I turned it in as a Word document, and you can obviously change a Word document and type into it, but I don't know.
I haven't played around with that, but I'm more than happy to do that, and I believe we have. I've never actually tried it, so I don't want to completely go out on a limb here. But
Okay.
let us look into that because
Right.
I believe we do have that capability. It'd be great to be able to do that. So if we can do it,
Yeah.
we can. If we have the capability, we'll make sure that happens.
Oh, and I also, another complaint that we had was that there were a lot of different forms, and so
right.
after the first paragraph on here, I have, please use this application form, so that you should hopefully all get the same
The same
form for
thing,
each
yeah.
person, yeah.
yeah, it's so nice when we get the application filled out that way and we can follow it. All right, some questions or comments for you, Roger? First, Barbara, then Michael?
I'm just looking at the title, Art Grant Program 2015. Should it be Arts Grant Program? Because we found that many people look at art grant as though being only visual arts. And we're not only about visual arts. And I don't know.
I would
It's a
agree with
simple
that
thing,
entirely.
but I think that arts would be a better, I think we ought to add the S.
And when you do that, there are other places in the document that say art grant program that need the S added.
I think it's worth doing. I know it's a drag to go back and correct something, but it is a question of perception, and I think that the more we can do to encourage artists of all stamps to apply for this program, the better.
Well, but actually, most of the people that apply are from the theater arts or music or performance. We have relatively few people from the visual arts that actually, particularly individual artists.
That's true.
So,
We
Is
have
it a problem to go in and put the S's on?
well, I was trying to think if there's, because I know this came up before, and we decided it was art grant. So, you know, and I'm trying to run through my brain and see why that was. I don't have a major problem with it, with changing it, but
So, Steve, do we have to take a vote to approve the revisions, or can we just all agree that the revisions are spot on and continue?
I don't think you have to take a motion unless,
Okay. Terrific. Thank you, Roger, for the work on that, and we'll look forward to the time when you are able to add those S's.
okay, so we don't have to do it this year, or do you want it done this year?
We would love it if you could do it for this year, but if, we also know that this is not necessarily something that you have time for again, but if you
Okay.
do, it'd be great.
But it does say arts organizations,
I know,
guidelines for
it's all
art.
in there.
So it's
Yeah.
not,
It lists it.
It's not crucial.
It's a finer point, and we'll take it when you're able to do it,
Okay.
okay?
Madam,
One thing I would like to add is that Heather put all of the student application forms for the mentor program online, and that worked like a charm. I mean, the kids,
If we want to have the option,
So Heather can do that.
yeah, if we want to have the option of
Did you get that?
everyone, I mean, I don't know if that's too much, but yeah, we can definitely
Oh.
put this online and
Okay.
do the same, I can just put the same text, pretty much everything.
Well, it's in the website right now.
Yes, but the actual form, they actually fill everything out on, so you don't have to download it and everything, you just basically go to the page and you can just start filling it out and upload your files too. I mean, we can do both options if, I think it's worth a try, if it's not too confusing.
So the way you do it now with the other one is it enters the field online and then it goes immediately to whoever's receiving the file.
It's, then it's emailed, and then what I would do, the one thing I would change is give everyone the login information, so you can actually go and download them separately if you want, but when someone completes an application, the people of the committee receive an email with the information, and with the downloads too. So that's separate links. And what's nice about it is it's formatted in a way that they can start the application and come back to it and save their information, so they don't have to fill it, because
They can print, the person, because I didn't look at it, it's the person that's applying can print their application after it's completed from their computer, right?
yeah.
So, I think that's a great way to go.
But I mean, we can still have both options. We can still have the download, people can download the form or just apply right online, if that makes it easier.
You know,
Just
so
so it's
then we have the deadline to get the documents is in.
Linda, I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
The only problem with changing it to doing it online is previously, we've had them physically deliver it by a certain time. So we still want to stay with that, I think, because we have attachment documents that they attach and
Well, you can
things.
still have the same thing where
Yeah.
there's a deadline, obviously, and
Well, but we also have 8 copies that they're supposed to give to us. with
Right, it has to be a
their
hard copy at
materials,
some
too.
point.
So I guess
we
that,
could all get the copy.
yeah, that we can still all get the copy. It just, and everyone gets.
We need to have a hard copy delivered here that can be made into 8 copies, and then there's a whole procedure.
Why?
No,
Because we all receive that at a meeting.
But if it's online.
Yeah, well, right now
We're all
they.
going to make our own copy of that?
Yeah. Right now, they give us 8 copies, which saves the city from having to make reproductions of everything. And many times there's visual materials that are with it or actual objects that will come in. So I don't know quite what the advantage would be to have it online since we already have it on the website. And
I think as long as it's downloadable for them from the website, so they don't have to come physically to pick it up.
But
We don't need, yeah, I don't think.
Always done
admin
that.
would- Yeah.
yeah, we've done that the last few years.
Okay, so I'm missing pieces of this. So we're going to stay with the procedure of eventually they have to bring a hard copy here
right.
so that we can continue with all the other procedures, because I'm on that committee and I want to know if that's going to get changed. It's going to change everything.
Yeah, I think it would change if, because
And we have it works so beautifully.
Yeah, so I really wouldn't want to change that right now.
Oh, good. Thank you. Yeah, okay.
I disagree, but it's okay.
So they can write it on their computer and then print it out.
Yeah.
And that's the advantage, is that they don't have to do it by hand or somehow
And Heather can still,
copy paste a
you'll
PDF.
still have them on our website too. You'll still upload these new documents.
Oh, will they be able to download the forms?
Yes.
Yes, I just won't do the application. I mean, the way we did it for
Right,
the arts
right, yeah.
mentor program.
She did a field entry, so, yeah.
Just wait to see how this breaks out.
Okay, so is it clear how it broke out?
Sounds like we're putting a PDF document up on the city website with the application and the guidelines like we've done in past years.
And then that means
Except
that
you,
applicants will then have to download that and then either put it in a typewriter or copy it into their computer so that they can fill it out there. And then it will be delivered in a hard copy, and then you'll make 8 hard copies of that.
No.
They make the
Make
copies.
8 copies, okay.
It's
We
their
can make,
expense.
we can make the online, when they download, we can make that writable, right?
Yeah, we could still
can write
pursue
right
that.
on the
Writable, so they
computer.
don't have to put in a typewriter if
Right.
they don't
Right.
want to.
Which I think is key to not having people modifying the
Right,
forms.
yes.
So that would be the new change. That would be the new upgraded way to do this, would be that they would be able to
Right.
open up the document, write right on it. When they're done, they print. They can either take it somewhere and have 7 more made, or they can print it at home and make 8. And then they do what they've always done,
Just
so
submit it.
that, so that the very complicated procedure that we've got down to a science will proceed as we've worked it out over the years.
And Roger, can you remind me of the date that we want to have this up on the city website by?
yeah, actually, I believe it's the next month. Well, let's see, the date would be down here.
We can talk after the meeting. I just want to make sure that I don't miss it.
Yeah. We're advertising on July 21st, availability of grant applications and begin distribution of the application to interested parties, most on post-application on city website.
According to this, the application is published in July, according to the calendar.
Right.
So we all set on that? Anything else? Linda, Public Relations. Thank you again for your wonderful coverage that we get in the paper, and wonderful articles on Khaled. Fantastic. Fantastic.
Okay, so we got that done. Just basically, we're moving along. Heather's been updating the website, as we've been speaking about. And we're going to have to make some upcoming changes to the website regarding the 2 things already mentioned. We'll do that. Heather will do that. And other than getting all the information to me to do the press releases that we need done. That's the most important thing I wanted to mention. And a
Yes.
calendar would be great.
Yes, and Heather, make sure that, because that used to be really a communication between you and I to make sure that you got those press releases, but now it would be with Heather.
Yeah, but, yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess that's it.
Fantastic. Mimi has asked me to fill in with her with art acquisition, so I'm going to do my best. Update on the peace poll. I don't have any information from Mimi on that. Does anybody here have any update on the peace poll at all? Do we know what's going on? No. Who would be, how can we find that out so that we can have a report and know what?
Mimi would be the one to.
Well, Mimi, is this a good time to make this announcement?
I don't see why not.
Okay, Mimi has
Actually,
tendered her
Mimi's-
resignation.
Oh,
She doesn't feel that she can attend meetings, that she had to go again to Los Angeles, not last month and this month as well. So she has put a,
Yeah, she sent us an email this
sent us an email
afternoon.
this afternoon saying that, and she asked me if I would do this for her. So we can't ask Mimi how that's going to happen. We have to figure it out on our own right now. Also on acquisitions, that would be Linda and Barbara, correct?
right.
So perhaps between now and the next meeting, one of you or both of you can figure out how we're going to keep in contact and know.
It would have been nice if we would have gotten a call, so we would have known, because we didn't know either. As far as
Call
her not
about what?
coming, about her not coming tonight to present a report.
She emailed this
Yeah.
afternoon.
Okay.
So, that was a notice. It was a couple hours ago. But for next time, let's put this back on, update on Peace Bowl, if that's okay, and maybe one of you will have something to tell us. Is that okay? All right. Phil Harvey donation. There are supposed to be some,
All right.
something to look at here. Barbara, will you do that part? Thank you. Does Barbara need to speak into a mic in order for that to be picked up?
She can speak into that microphone at the table or
Yeah.
at the,
You know, just
Podium
to,
or-
just to clarify why it's so important to speak into the mic, this is how the minutes are written. They're written off our voice on the mic. So when we're not on mic or we can't hear on the mic, it's not going to show up in the minutes because she doesn't hear it.
Microphone.
So you need the mic. Or you might want to go to the podium.
We've been working with Phil Harvey with two images that are quite beautiful. And last month, we were asked to bring them. No, there are two. Yeah. We would like to purchase these for the collection, and it's a diptych, and they're coming. Here, hold this with me. It's a little hard. They're really.
The podium mic might be easier for you. Okay.
This is visual.
Mhm.
These are the
That's so
pieces that we
gorgeous.
want to purchase.
You want to show it to the camera as well? You are so funny.
You had the money right side.
I don't know. Did you get a chance to see these?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
They're beautiful. Wow.
We thought that these were really beautiful, fine art pieces, different from the work that Phil Harvey does usually. And we thought that this would be a beautiful addition to our collection.
So the committee is going to make a, oops. The committee's going to make a recommendation then to the rest of the commission to, your recommendation is to accept these?
Yes. I need a second.
Do we have a dollar amount? That should probably be in the motion.
Do you have a dollar amount?
No, you do not.
The,
I thought it was a donation.
no.
Part of it's a donation.
Would you explain that, please?
Yeah, Myrna was donating the other piece.
You can't have your cake
Well,
and eat
I
it
don't
too.
have any information.
The pieces are approximately $350 each. That's not an exact amount, but that was the number that was in discussion, and I really feel terrible that we're not prepared, because Mimi was going to present this tonight. But we would like to, the motion would be to purchase the diptych by Phil Harvey, up to $800.
That's framed too, right? I think that was part of the.
So the additional would be for framing?
The additional, yeah, we will be framing them.
So the 350 and 350 is 700, so you think you can frame them for 100?
Well, I don't know
We
exactly.
don't have the exact figures.
We don't
Mimi
have
has
the
those.
exact figures.
May I
It's a
suggest
little
that you might want to go
difficult.
up to a little higher than that to accommodate
Let's
framing?
do $1,000 for
Up to.
up to $1,000 for the purchase of these two pieces.
Could we have a second?
I'll second.
And now we have discussion.
I'm a little uncomfortable with not knowing the exact amount. It seems to me that we should have the purchase price in front of us before we make a decision. I don't imagine there's any great urgency about this. I would suggest we
There is.
table
This
it.
is an
There is?
urgency.
Yeah,
Yes.
we need to do this before June 30th.
I see. Then I withdraw my objection.
We really did spend a lot of time doing this, and we do have all the figures and everything down. It's just Mimi's not here tonight, and she
Okay.
has all the, it's been going on for several months. We looked at proofs. It's,
So just to clarify, that's the purchase of the two artworks unframed.
Unframed.
But the motion includes money for framing, the
No.
$1,000.
No.
The $1,000 is only the purchase price.
It
Any
is
framing
for-
would be above
it
and
is for-
beyond that?
Yeah, that would go into our budget for next year. Framing would go into our budget for next year.
So this is to, when we say up to 1,000, it's to ensure that we're covering whatever the amount is that was decided on. And then anything above, let's say it turns out it is only 700, that 300 would be returned.
It's not spent.
No, it's not spent.
It's not spent. Well, that's what I
Right.
mean by return. I was going to say to the budget.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty common with a lot of motions. The city council will award a contract, say, to a consultant, and you don't know if they're going to end up doing all their parts of the scope of the work. And so the motion will typically be, for a budget amount not to exceed, blank.
Right.
And then the particulars of the contract manage that. And in this case, it's, you've given the authority to spend up to that amount.
and then we can give a better report next time.
Yes.
Thank you. And until we have another commissioner who may or may not be assigned to this committee, I would ask that either you guys co-chair or one of you take over the chair role of the committee. And there'll be a good reason for that to happen when we get to the very end of today's meeting and talk about agendas for the future. So we have a motion on the floor in a second. Is there any other discussion? So let's, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So that we passed the recommendation to purchase two artworks by Phil Harvey for a price not to exceed $1,000.
Really one artwork. It's a diptych.
One artwork, the diptych. Thank you.
So all that we would need is just an invoice, and we'll pay that.
Yes.
Perfect.
Last month, you had and I believe it's also, yes, it is, the very last page of this month. I was unable, for physical reasons, to get the Weiner donation over here in person. It weighs 50 pounds, and I can't quite do 50 pounds yet. I'm working on it, though. So you have a photograph of it, and we need to receive a recommendation from the committee on whether or not we should accept the donation of the Weiner sculpture. There, I believe, is also a copy of the Weiner application in your packet. Linda and Barbara have seen the sculpture, and I would ask that they speak, and then Mimi has shared her recommendation with me, and I can do that, but I'd like Linda and Barbara to go first.
Could you describe the, is the size of the sculpture here?
The piece?
We have a picture, but we don't
You
have
know,
the size.
we don't have the application in here,
It's
and
this
I'm
big.
looking to see if it was in last month's packet. It should have been. Let me look
I
and see.
saw it. This big.
And then I will tell, yes, I can describe it for you, but let me look and see if it's last month, because if it is, and you have that with you, you can refer to it. You know,
I have a question for Roger.
it doesn't look like it's here. Okay,
Roger,
so we don't have it.
Are our walls capable of hanging a 50-pound marble piece? Here,
So the piece is,
wait,
oh, I'm sorry.
We would have to be careful and probably find a stud for that kind of weight. And some of our walls are more sturdy than others, like I wouldn't suggest that in here, but
I'm working on another project where, you know, a 20-pound weight limit is about what is acceptable. And 50 pounds is a lot of weight, and I don't know of a place here at City Hall that could accommodate that.
So,
I mean, that's
I
one
will
of the
just,
things.
for those of you that have not seen the piece, as Barbara and Linda and I have, in fact, it's at my house. I would, and I'm sorry, I don't have a mic with me, so maybe you can repeat into the microphone. But if it were hanging here, it would be about this size with the inner border, looking at the inner border. So it's no
That
bigger
big?
than this.
Looks a little,
It's quite thick and, I'll come back now.
it's massive.
It's quite a thick piece. The carving into the marble has if you look at the picture, the depressions are deep. It's in a beautiful marble of a beigey browny color, a little lighter than this. I'm trying to do what I can here to kind of give you a flavor of it. It's not so much a brown as it is a marbly, pale, sandy taupe is how I would describe it. You can see at the very top, there's a lizard that comes and covers over the top of what looks like a face, a figure. It definitely, for me, for those of you that haven't seen it, to kind of help you picture it, was reminiscent of the drama faces of the tragedy and comedy, with this one being the tragedy. So it's quite dramatic and striking. Does that help for those of you that haven't seen it a little bit? Marble, about that size.
and it weighs about 50 pounds?
Yes.
And it weighs 50 pounds. It's solid marble, yeah. So why don't we start with either Barbara or Linda? What's your recommendation on this particular piece?
She
Well,
said no.
I would absolutely think that we would need to see that piece in person. I don't see a place for it here in City Hall, and until we expand our showing of the collection, I don't see how it could fit into our program.
Linda?
I agree. I don't feel that it's appropriate at this time.
And Mimi feels that way too, and would go farther and say that she feels that the theme and the energy of the piece is very heavy and somewhat severe, and that she feels also, and I think this is for me the most important point, and I do know Marty Weiner's work, that it is not representational of his work. For those of us that know, Barbara does, Marty's work and have seen many, many of his sculptures, this is a departure from what he normally does. And if you read, and again, I'm speaking for Mimi here, if you read the acquisition committee's guidelines, so to speak, it talks about assuming works, donation works that are typical of what the artist does and are the best representation of that artist's work. And for that reason, Mimi does not recommend accepting this piece as a donation and recommends that it is returned to the owner. So that, I believe, is all three members of the acquisitions committee that would like to communicate back to the owner that the Art Commission really doesn't feel that this piece is something that would complement our collection. Any questions? Or any disagreement from anyone? So then I would ask that the acquisitions committee, I need to bring this piece to one of the two of you so that you can contact the owner and have it picked up.
No, we will have the owner pick it up from you.
Yeah.
And I'll contact the owner if you have the information on how to reach her, because she has moved from Ojai.
Yes, I do.
So I will call her and make arrangements for her to pick it up from you.
Okay,
Okay?
okay.
Thank you.
And I would like that done in a timely manner, too. And beyond a certain point, I will have it delivered to City Hall for pickup. Because I really don't have a place for it.
Okay.
All right. Everyone happy on that?
No.
Do we need to vote on that?
No, we're not accepting it.
Steve?
It's not required to take a vote if you're not taking any
Because
action.
we're not taking an action, okay. Last thing is, hopefully you've all had an opportunity to review the donation procedures, and in particular, the part that Mimi wanted to discuss was, and I will try to find the right page for that so I can direct you all to it.
Same ones we already have.
Did you include it in this packet, or is it only in last month?
It's right before
16 and 17.
page 16 and 17.
Right before the picture, thank you, Michael. This has to do with the particular section of the donation procedure that has to do with who pays for installation and signage costs. We, just a little background on this. There was a barrage of negative feedback from both the Peaceful people and the donors who wanted to donate the Weiner piece, at the idea that they're giving us a piece of artwork and then we're turning back to them and saying, but you have to pay for the signage, you have to pay for the installation costs. Now, again, I'm speaking for Mimi. Mimi feels very strongly that this is normal procedure to ask donors to pay for signage costs and installation. So the discussion is balancing the normal procedure, and she said to me, of course, I am talking about a procedure that was used in Colorado where where donations didn't come from people who perhaps were in their elderly years and living at a home and don't have money, or from artists who are scraping the bottom of the barrel and don't have money for signage. So she recognized that that policy that she was referring to was a policy that fit the Denver environment, which was a huge municipal art collection. and donated by people who were often well-heeled. So keeping in mind that this is not Denver, it's Ojai, we need to decide if we are going to have that strong kind of a policy, or if there can be some flexibility there, or what are we going to do?
Well, it's flexible here because it says may be responsible. You're
Yeah,
you're putting a flexible policy here.
Is that what we want?
I don't.
I think it should be, they should be responsible.
Let's start with Michael, and we'll all have a chance that way, because I really would like to hear, Michael, you expound on what you just said.
Well, I don't have anything elaborate to expound. It just seems to me that, given the fact that we have a limited budget ourselves, it would make sense that a donation, perhaps of something that we really would like to accept, but we don't have the money to pay for installation and signage, that should be a criteria. Otherwise, we run the risk of being inundated with pieces that might indeed be very expensive to install, quite apart from the cost of the plaque. The signage is the least of it. The installation cost, it seems to me, is the critical issue. The peace pole is a perfect example. I mean, that's going to take concrete footings and things of that order for it to be installed properly. Am I right in recollecting that?
They're going to install it.
Yeah, so they're going to pay for the installation. Well, that's appropriate, it seems to me. So I would certainly support it being an absolute policy that the donor will be responsible rather than maybe.
Okay.
I agree.
Barbara?
It's standard policy for all donations.
I agree also.
I kind of wonder if we bought a piece, we would have to pay for signage if it needed it.
Sure.
And so to put that extra burden on a donor, it seems like we have the opportunity to decide whether we can afford to do it. It seems like this is also would be like if somebody wanted to donate a painting, and obviously we're not charging them for signage for the painting or anything like that. So I think to leave it at our discretion, because certain things could be very expensive, like if there was a sculpture piece and it needed a really heavy-duty plaque or something like that, we would consider it. But if somebody wanted to give us a Keenholz painting or something for the city, I don't think I would insist that they pay for a plaque to go into the area here.
Heather?
I actually like the idea of it being flexible. I think there's going to be some situations where we're going to have to have a little room for discussion.
Savaro, do you want to weigh in on this?
I'll leave it up to you guys. I don't want to weigh any opinion.
We're getting scary, huh?
Not at all.
Just kidding. Well, I guess it's my turn to weigh in, and I have to tell you, I am so split 50-50. I see both points of view so clearly. And I also see another point of view clearly, and Mimi spoke to this as well, and Barbara, I think you have, and that is, do we want to accept donations, period? If you had a chance to look at the donation policy and procedure, which was on your agenda last month, it's pretty tricky. We have to establish, and that policy that was printed last month tries to really establish that it is at the discretion of the Arts Commission whether or not it's ever even going to accept a donation.
Right.
Because there was feeling, I think, on the part of Mimi and perhaps others, that sometimes donations are offered tact, you have abandoned me, because a piece is available and let's give it to the city. And it can get a little hairy to say no. So that's another possibility, is to say, Barbara, can you speak to that, because you know about other cities and what their policy on that is?
Well, I think that we need to have a definite donation policy, which we have, and I don't think we should tamper with it. I think that let's leave it at, it's at the discretion of the Arts Commission whether a piece is accepted or not. That's it.
Yep.
It really doesn't need any more discussion.
Okay.
I agree, but I think there has to be something worded in a way, because it feels like these last two donations, the peace poll, when, it caught down to when we asked questions or asked for further details or further description of the work, we were met with a lot of hostility. And then this piece being dropped off, that it puts us in the position of scrambling to accept it or not, and we spent a lot of time discussing can we even get it here, and things like that. There has to be something really strongly worded that kind of, yeah, there's some, because it seems like somewhere there's wiggle room, that something's happening. The peace poll, it just seemed like that was really, when it was proposed, it was assumed that it was going to be accepted, and when we asked for more information, we were met with, as I said, a lot of hostility.
Yeah.
So we have to do something to cut this off, because I think people are just kind of dropping things off and assuming that we're going to take it. You can't just leave the baby at the door.
So what I did find in last month's packet, and this is what you're talking about, Heather, is the sheet that is the application is in
It's in
there.
here.
But the policy and the procedure sheet was not copied and put in
It's
here.
right here.
Where did you find
It's
it?
in tonight's agenda. They're both
Immediately
here,
before the-
16 and 17.
It's on page 16 and 17?
Yeah, in tonight's
on.
agenda.
How did I miss it?
Yeah, no, I agree, but it's just, my question is, I don't know
We
where it's
just
going
ha-
wrong.
Yeah,
So-
we just have to
Yep, there
apply
it
it.
is.
It's
Yeah.
written, and I think the only thing we were discussing tonight isn't what we were discussing tonight, whether we add this. Is that what she's?
We're discussing this entire procedure. It's been modified and rewritten.
No, I know that, but she has this on a separate sheet.
That's on a separate sheet, so we could have a discussion about the paying for the plaque and the
Right.
installation. So we've
the
we've
rest-
decided that.
Right.
But this, which I'm sorry, I didn't see it. I'm not good when things are on the backside. I just lose track. Page 16 and page 17 are the actual procedure guidelines, and then the application form itself, so that anybody that was donating something would have to fill this out, would have to read this and fill this out. So it's like to take a look at that and see whether or not you all agree that this does what we want it to do.
I think it works. There's one sentence here. It's in the third paragraph.
Yes.
And it says, make the recommendation to the full 7-member of the Arts Commission.
We should strike full 7-member and just say to the Arts Commission. Right?
But we don't want to have just 4 members. We ran into a problem when we had just 4 members at a meeting, and a donation was accepted, and it really wasn't acceptable. And that's what led to the writing of this donation policy.
So if you just cross out the 2 words, 7-member, and it says recommendation to the full Arts Commission. I thought that's what we decided to do last time. Didn't we decide to do that?
To leave the word full in?
Leave full in, take out 7 and member. Then it says to the full Arts Commission. So that means the full commission sitting. And so if we only have, at the time, if we only have what we have now.
6.
6.
Say Mimi wasn't, because she's resigned, so we only had 6, it would still be considered
The full
the
commission.
full
Well,
commission.
But that is not what it would say. Full commission means 7. Those 2 words are redundant, full and 7. Full means 7. So it has to be worded in a way that is the present. In other words, the commission members who are present at that particular meeting when it's presented is what you're saying. But how are you going to determine that a quorum 4 is not acceptable, which is what Barbara is saying. You see
Well-
the sticky wicket?
I'd like
It's
to
a sticky
say a
wicket there.
quorum of 6 members.
A what of 6 members?
6 members of the commission.
So at least 6 members?
At least 6 members of the commission need
Make
to
a
make the
recommendation
decision.
to,
Can I also, maybe this wouldn't solve our problem, but maybe we would do something in here about a timeline. That it's, because it seems the last 2 problems were kind of arose because the people making the donations claim that there was a definite timeline. You know, someone's leaving town, they drop it off and say it needs to be dealt with right away. That we basically specified that it's, again, up to, that there has to be a gap of time, or not has to be, but there will be, or could be a gap of time before it's addressed.
so add something in here about the
Yeah, I don't know the
timeline.
exact.
3 months?
Yeah, so.
I can do it.
Yes.
Because I think that was part of the problem with both these donations, that we all felt a little pressured to act
Maybe
on them.
on page 16, if under the notes, you could put that there, because it already says
Yeah.
the
Good.
city has a limited capacity
Yeah.
for accepting donations. The process can take up to 6.
So there could be like a second note, Linda, you're thinking?
Yeah, just say the process can take up to.
Okay, will do. I want to make sure I have that part right now that you all want here. Make a recommendation to at least 6 of the 7-member art commission?
I think that's clumsy.
Yeah.
Point
It's
of
clumsy.
clarification, Steve, does full in fact mean
Every
7,
single?
or does it mean the
Reside.
presently
Yeah,
sitting
I was
council?
gonna weigh in when I had a chance here. The short answer is generally a commission can act when they have a quorum present.
Right, I understand that.
I don't know as a matter of procedure if the commission can set a policy or a procedure that says that you need more members present to act on something. So I was going to state, once the discussion was over, that I would like to be able just to double check on that. Yeah, be happy
Because-
to.
We did run into a problem with 4 members, and we
Yeah.
wanted to have more than 4 members present.
Right.
Would it be possible to solve that kind of problem by, in this way, if the acquisitions committee has received a donation and they have a recommendation for it, and they see that there is not a full, they come to a meeting and they see that we don't have the full 7 members here, that you table that until we do. In other words, you say, we're going to table that action for next month. Can you not just handle it that way? Don't put it in front of us if there's only 4.
Then you can take
Yeah,
out
you can do that.
full
Yes,
7 members and
That's
just
a good
say,
idea.
make a recommendation to the Arts Commission, period.
Yeah, and just
Yeah.
leave
Take
out
those
any
words
number
out.
and leave it up to the
We like that.
acquisition committee to play the political game smartly.
guideline.
That's a guideline, yeah.
Yep.
In fact, it's pretty common if we have an item that we think is either potentially controversial or may have a split on the council or whatnot, we try not to schedule those items on a date when we know we're going to be missing 1 or 2 council members. We try to coordinate with council. So I think along the same thought, that's perfectly acceptable.
Good.
Okay, so we will strike out anything relevant to how many, and it will be up to the acquisitions committee to know the best time to present a recommendation. Okay?
And of course, you
then I
could.
will add another note about the timeline, and I will get that to Steve, and it will be in the next packet with those corrections so that we can approve that donation policy to move forward.
I'd like you to send that to the acquisitions committee for our review,
Okay.
because I'm going to look at everything that we've done in the past.
Good. Terrific. So sent to you and to Linda. Oh, if we're done with that, is there anything else on art acquisitions? And that was our big one tonight, so that's good. Michael, awards.
Well, we have completed the award of this year's Lifetime Achievement Award, as you all know, and I thought that presentation went very well. Khaled, I thought, was profoundly grateful and moved. I think it was in fact a very moving experience because it was a recognition to him in a public venue of his important place in the community, and I think he deeply appreciated that. So I think that, in and of itself, is a nice validation of one of the things that this commission spends, again, a great deal of time on that doesn't cost the city anything, but a lot of volunteer time. We now have to move towards the award of the Hope Fraser Award. And the question I have is whether that must be an annual award. Certainly the Lifetime Achievement is, but should the Hope Fraser Award be annual?
In the past, it
It
hasn't.
hasn't been,
It
okay.
hasn't been.
It's only a special award.
Okay, well, that was my hope, and that being the case, I will still probably convene the committee for us to discuss when we want to begin investigating and what criteria we want to apply. That's all I have to report.
Do you want that on the agenda for next month then?
No.
Okay. Anything else? Michael, or any questions for Michael? All right, then we're going to move right on to commission agendas. I asked Steve to put this on the agenda so that we could, make sure that everybody is really clear on some of the changes that have been made. And I would just direct you to look back at tonight's agenda and notice, especially there on art acquisitions, how things, action items and discussion items have been spelled out in detail. Same thing with the Artist Mentor Program. Michael let us know that he had an action item, even though he withdrew it at the time. That was something that he thought we would take action on. City Gallery, we knew that there were a couple of things that were going to come up. And this is all about the Brown Act, that we've been called to order on this topic because we've wanted to discuss things that weren't delineated, and we've been told we really couldn't do that because the public didn't know we were going to have that discussion. It's all about that kind of transparency. So Steve is going to advise you now what the best way to handle this. And we're going to follow that up with an email to all of you so that you can kind of really know what you as a chair need to do in order to make sure that at a meeting we can cover whatever it is that needs to be covered. Do you want to take it from there?
Sure. So maybe I could just explain the process a little bit. Generally, the chair and I will try to exchange some type of a draft agenda, hopefully early in the week prior to the week that we meet. So we're here on the meeting night. So if you go back to the previous week, we're trying to start work on that. My first day of the week is Tuesday, so usually Tuesday or Wednesday at the latest, I'm trying to get a draft to the chair. So at that point, we should have all the requested agenda items from the committees or the commission members. The chair is the one who ultimately makes the call in terms of what goes on that agenda. And then we finalize that, and my deadline for getting the agenda out and posted and in the mail and on the website is basically by the close of business on Friday. There is opportunity to amend the agenda after that point, but I would say that we would probably want to hold off on that for really weighty, timely items, just because it takes a lot of work to go back and amend the agenda if it's just, say maybe just to add an item that maybe we could hold off on. So really key if we can to get that into the chair, I would say no later than Monday of the week prior to the meeting. And that way we have those requests and we can work through the agenda building that week. Couple other points I just wanted to make in regards of the agenda and the Brown Act. I think Chair Golden stated it quite well. The act requires anything that's going to be acted upon or discussed by the commission to be on the agenda. A distinction would be, I want to give a report. That's simply giving information. Oftentimes, you'll give a report and that might lead to a clarifying question or something like that. That is fine. As soon as the report starts to turn to potential discussion, that would be the appropriate time to say something, thank you for the report, this is very interesting, I've got a number of questions, and I think we need to discuss this further, so, Madam Chair, could we put this on the next agenda so that we can have a discussion and consider some recommendations, something like that. So just to make that distinction, there is a difference there between simply giving a report or giving information and then getting into discussion and action. So it's really, for the Brown Act, if it's discussion or action, it needs to be on the agenda. It's certainly helpful to list reports. Again, it's just more information, better information for the public. But you can share information. The key thing is when you get into discussion and action. So I think I've said that about 3 times now.
Well, can I add a couple things here?
Of course.
We're using the calendar, the meeting calendar that has under it what happens at each of those monthly meetings. So Steve and I refer to that. And if we see that there's something on there that you're due to talk about, like, for example, in October, Pope Fraser discussion, we will automatically put that on there so that you don't have to worry about anything that's on the calendar will automatically go on that agenda. And the easiest way, and I think the best way to take care of this is during this meeting or after this meeting, you kind of have in your head what's going to happen next month, is to let us know right now, and then you're done with it. So you can say, could that go on the next, you could just ask us right now, could that be put on the next agenda? We want to have a discussion about that. And it's done. It's off your plate. Because the only thing, we all agree that we want to be transparent. We all see the benefit of that. We want people to know what we're doing and why and everything. The problem can be that it adds more work to what is already our overworked life for many of us. So that's going to be my recommendation, is that you kind of like do it as we're sitting here and then refer to the calendar and see what's coming up. And that just should take a couple minutes.
Do you have copies of the calendar?
Let me ask to get copies of the 2014 meeting calendar.
Mm-hmm.
Can we get copies of that to anyone that wants another copy of it?
Sure.
Who besides Barbara would like another copy of the calendar?
Yeah, if it's emailed, that would be,
Yeah.
We email that out to everybody?
Email.
Yeah.
Sure, no problem.
Fantastic. Good point. Anybody else, question, discussion on this?
Oh, not on this.
Not on this. Okay, thank you, everybody, because I know it does seem like, oh, God, I got that too, but it worked out pretty good for this meeting, I think.
Wait,
We can go on now to commissioner comments. Heather, any comments tonight? Roger?
I was wondering how we're going to go about getting another commissioner to fill some of these spots.
Can I say what I think the process is?
You certainly may.
And then if I'm wrong, you can correct me. We have applications that are current from the last round. And I believe that if any other applications have been received since then, those individuals would be interviewed by the mayor, someone who the mayor selects, and myself. It's a 3-member selection process that's open to the public. And once everyone who has applied has been interviewed, the mayor will make a recommendation
The only other thing that I
for the appointment.
would question, I believe the clerk usually runs some type of a press release alerting folks that there's
Thank you.
a vacancy and a deadline to
they would
apply.
have to.
And I would ask that that process begins immediately, since we have the resignation in.
I'll tender that to the clerk tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. Anything else, Roger? Thank you for the question. Good point. Linda? Barbara?
okay. I was surprised that we didn't have any discussion about the visioning that we went through.
It's coming.
It's coming?
Still,
Okay.
yet to come.
Okay, the other thing, part of that visioning that we discussed, the possibility of asking non-commissioners to be on our committees. And I want to know if that is workable.
In other words, can we ask people to help us?
You can certainly ask people to help you.
Because they don't have to sit on the committee to be asked, right?
So,
But could such people vote on those, in those committees?
I think you'd have to, it's something, I believe you need a formal action by the Arts Commission if you were to, create some ad hoc or standing committee that had multiple memberships. I think that would need to come from a formal action of the commission. But certainly you can always and should invite public and other people to give input at your committee meeting. So that's not an issue.
so could we put that on the agenda for next time?
Sure, if that's the commission's pleasure, yeah. So, yeah, maybe you can give me a little more particulars on what the
Yeah.
action might be. We can talk after. Okay.
And I think the category there would be 5-year goals would come under that,
Oh, okay.
its own category. Anything else, Barbara?
But we'll add,
Michael?
Yeah, and I don't want to open a big can of worms, but I have to say I am a little disturbed that in the discussion of the art grants, we didn't pursue the idea of shifting over from paper to electronic applications. I think that's a subject that it would be useful to get input from Steve about how other commissions are dealing with this sort of thing and what the city's developing policy is to try and move from paper to electronic media.
I make a comment about that?
Yeah.
I agree. And I also think we're getting to the point where artists are starting to they're used to applying
Yeah.
to for grants and programs digitally, online. So I think it just seems out of date to ask people to submit eight applications
I agree.
when it can be done online. And images uploaded online. I think people
And
are used
we're
to
all
doing-
going to be printing those out on our own then.
Yes,
Because we
that's
have
what I
to,
was
because
gonna
when
say.
we sit here with the applicants in front of us, we have in front of us a hard copy of their application that we refer to and ask them questions about. So for me, having a hard copy of the application is critical,
But you have.
critical.
you have
And
the
it
ability-
shouldn't be my expense to print that out. It should really be theirs.
No,
They're the
but
ones
there are-
applying for the
There are
grant.
alternative modes to deal with it. You can sit in front of your computer, read the application, make notes of the questions you want to raise.
I want the application right there in front of me, and I'm not going to sit and, I'm going to make a printing copy of it. And I don't think we should have to do that. I think the reason that it's not about, I totally agree, they should be able to fill it out on their computer and then hit print and either take it to Matilaha Mail Call or Ojai Business Center and get the 8 copies made. I totally agree with that. I was in charge of grant programs for schools. There were always multiple copies required, always.
When was that?
When I was a school administrator. And technology was there. They were able to fill it out online, but they were required to bring hard copies so that the panel who was doing the selection had a hard copy.
Well, I still would like to get information, if Steve could provide it to us at our next meeting about how other commissions are dealing with this and what the city's policy is. If there has been any discussion of it.
not really, no.
Okay, well, then, we are still in the 20th century then.
I mean, there are a couple things that come into play here, and I wish it was as simple as Commissioner Addison is suggesting. There's public record, that comes into play. And then, for example, I'm sure there may be some sophisticated large outfit somewhere, but I'd be surprised. Well, let me state this. We still require people to give a job application with a wet signature on it. And for some legal purposes there, because they're swearing on that application with that signature that the statements on there are true. I do have some current concerns just because, and I think this gets forgotten a lot. We are an extremely extremely small staff
Yes.
that wears many, many, many hats. Part of the problem with that is there's times of compression when we have a lot of things happening, and other times, so sometimes it's when it falls, are we gonna be able to have the time and the capability to do that? I understand where you're coming from, and I'm certainly, forward-thinking in terms of moving that direction. We would probably still need to have, at least have some hard copies available for the public if they came in to request that, at a meeting, which you could do. You could just make some hard copies there. I guess my personal feeling on this would be if this was something we were doing continually, or if we had, if we were of the scope and scale that we had, 5 or 6 application cycles throughout the year, then I would say there would be some economy of scale there in terms of moving towards something like that. But it's a one-time year thing, and I know these things sound good. It's much like the effort that we've been trying for the last several years to try to move towards paperless city council packets. It sounds great, but it's fraught with a lot of complications. And then, of course, some people still prefer that hard copy as well. So I think the corner's starting to turn on this, but I don't think we're all quite there yet.
May
Well,
I ask?
That's enough of a report for me. If that's where the city is, that answers my concern.
Right. But I would like, Roger, if you don't mind, just to take a couple minutes and describe what happens, because Heather is rather new on the commission and Michael is not a member. I am, so I know what happens with those copies and what you do to prepare all of us and how they're used. So there's some understanding of how we use those hard copies.
I did serve on that committee, so I'm not ignorant of the process.
Oh, okay. Well, would you?
Okay. Basically, as per our calendar, the applicants bring in the 8 copies and whatever other supporting materials are necessary, and then the staff distributes those at the next commission meeting after the deadline, and then we assign a particular commissioner to each of the applicants. Sometimes it's 2 per commissioner, sometimes 1. And then that particular person is kind of like a mentor in a way to the applicant. And so they need to have a lot of that information for those particular people that they're in a mentor relationship with. And then they also need to be able to communicate to the staff to kind of explain the grant proposal to everybody else on the commission. So that becomes, each commissioner becomes an expert on 1 or more of the applicants. And of course, we all get copies of the reports too. And then we make a decision, and I give a summary sheet which gives kind of a synopsis of each of the projects that are wanting money, and then we vote on it.
Right. So even before they are distributed to us, you take those hard copies and you actually make packets for each one of us.
Yeah, actually,
out of
the
those,
staff does
so that
that.
everybody has
Right.
one with the ones that you're suggesting they're assigned to on top.
Right.
And we are all expected to read all of those. So what I would just ask all of you as you're thinking about this is, how are you going to accomplish that if you don't have the hard copy?
I think it's difficult too. The hard copy is important because you can make notes on the computer, but there may be something that didn't occur to you on the computer to take a note on. Like it might be a dollar issue or a promotional issue or something that didn't seem to stand out to you, but
Reference it, yeah.
yeah, you need to reference it. So I think if we all had iPads or some other desktop computers here, we could basically have all that information there, but we don't really
Exactly.
have that. So I don't think it would be workable to not have at this particular stage. But I think the world's going to that, and I'm seeing more and more of these things going on, but we'd either have to buy our own electronic materials.
Oh, I think we should put a request in that the city supply
Yes.
that for us. If we have to go with electronic copies of it, then we do. We all need to have one of those sitting here and be trained in it, so we
Yeah,
can
training,
pull it up
that's the important
when the
part.
person comes up
Probably
here.
will.
Yeah.
And somehow line them all up, because sometimes you want to line them all up and see, because we're going to say this much for this one, and we're lining them all up and looking at them. So we would need to have the electronics right in front of us. And thank you, because that's exactly what I was hoping would come out from this, is that it's not as simple as it sounds. We need the hard copy with the technology that we don't have.
Right.
Savaro, do you think we can get that?
But we can go baby steps and have the application filled out on the computer this year.
We're doing that. That's happening.
It is?
Yeah.
I thought that you had to download the application
Heather's
and
gonna-
write it.
No, Heather is going to
Oh,
put it online.
so that's what I'm
that-
saying. We
yes, they can
decided
write
to
it
do
up.
that.
Yes.
So that's a baby step in that
Yep.
direction, and then we'll see how much further
Yes.
we can go.
Thank you. All right, well, my turn, so again, I have taken the liberty of writing up the 5-year goals by committee. So I took what Linda had done that wonderful job of, which we all have copies of in our packets. And now each of you as chairs can look at that committee and see what it is your committee has said is part of its 5-year goals, and add that to your committee responsibility sheets that you have. And in some cases, it indicates when there's 2 committees that are working together. So that's for your information.
That's really acquisitions.
Probably, probably.
Public art.
Yeah, it's not really, well, it's public relations too, I suppose, but I don't know.
Corrections to this?
Yeah,
Well, yeah.
when we
This
put the.
came
deve-
straight from the notes. It's in your packet, the original notes, so you can double check if you want.
The development.
We can
of the
change
City
anything.
Hall gardens.
Mm-hmm.
Development of the City Hall gardens is really a function of public art, acquisitions, and PR.
Yeah, it'd be all 3.
Not Arts Ojai.
No.
All right, I'll correct that.
Well, I think the reason we put it there is because of performances. You were thinking of performances going on in the park, in the back 40 there. So
Okay.
I think that's why it's in there. So maybe that would be part of it too.
To leave it in?
Yeah, I think so, don't you? Because you were talking about performances, remember?
Well, remember, this is developing the gardens. It isn't about what happens. I'm thinking when I see development, that it's not what's going to happen once they're developed.
It's then it goes under public art, acquisitions, and PR.
Public art acquisitions and PR. Okay, got it. Anything else anybody sees there that needs to be? Okay, not hearing anything, I have a question for Mr. McCleary, which is, how do we now, or maybe it's for Savaro, I don't know, how do we now, because the mayor said, has this been presented to the public? Has this been presented to council? So what is the next step with our 5-year goals?
What?
Yes, Mayor Strobel said to me, it was
Well,
actually during an interview, has this been presented to the commission and or to the council, and has it been presented to the public?
I mean, my recommendation would be to present it to the council so that we could Because it's my question is, okay, so how are the council's goals, are they similar or not connected to the Arts Commission goals and so forth? Even talking about Parks and Rec, even talking about historical preservation or our planning commission, how do we make all these goals, I guess, fit each other and mold and have a continuing, I guess, so I don't want there to be a lot of work to be done if we're not all in the same page.
Could this, once this is modified, because there's modifications, once this is modified and comes back at the next meeting, at that point, could it be put into a city council packet as an informational piece?
I guess, well, with protocol, I think any commission could make any recommendations to the city council. So I guess that's how we'll get the ball rolling. But in terms of how we deal with it, I think it's the council's decision on how we want to address all these. It's not up to me or up to staff. I think it's just up to how the council wants to work this out and direct staff to do it. I think that's the important thing, and to get the ball rolling. And I don't know if Mr. McClary has any other input or corrections or suggestions.
Well, I'd say it's a bit of an open field, because I don't really think that there's an established procedure right now
Yeah,
for this. You know, it was a suggestion, and I think a good suggestion, that came from the mayor, as opposed to a direction from the city council that the Arts Commission or other commissions go back and develop goals and present them to the council for ultimate adoption. And certainly the council could give that direction and may want to give that direction. One approach that you might want to take, kind of absent that direction, I would think it would be okay for the commission to adopt its goals if it wanted to. And then I think the appropriate place to do that would be to share that at the meeting. Well, you could do it at the joint meeting, or you could also share it at the first meeting of the month when the chairs give their monthly report to the city council. Chair Golden, as she usually does, stands up and communicates to the council what the commission has been working on, and that would seem to be a good time to present that we wanted to share with the city council the goals that the Arts Commission has adopted, and ask if the council has any feedback. And then certainly the council, if they wanted to, could say, gee, we think we should put this on a council agenda for further discussion, to, you know, whatever they wanted to do with it. Or they could simply say, thank you, Arts Commission, appreciate the information, and move on from there.
Can we also put it on the website once it goes before city council and they say, well, great?
Absolutely.
So then we could publish it, and then we will have fulfilled what the mayor had said, which is sharing it with city council and sharing it with the public.
Yep.
So I would ask that this be put on the next agenda to adopt the goals as edited. And I will get that back in the packet with the edits. So if there are any other edits on this, please let me know. Because we're gonna take care of this and not have to revisit it again for 5 years.
Well, I think if it's going to be disseminated the way you just described, a lot of it needs fleshing out. I think
Yeah.
developing Arts Ojai application means something to us, but I don't think it will mean
Okay.
much to anyone else.
All right.
Yeah, isn't this more for our interior? I don't know why
This is more internal.
this is internal. This is not, I don't think it's appropriate.
This works.
I'm just going with what the
internally.
mayor directed us to do.
Did she direct or did she suggest?
She directed. It was a direction, very strong.
I don't think that, I think that the 5-year goals should be presented as a list of 1 to 10 or whatever the number is, but not divided up into committees. This is an internal document, but if we're going to give this to the city council or to the public, we just want to list the goals that we have. And I think it really requires a mission statement. Well, not exactly, because we have our task as is delineated by the city council.
Exactly.
The ordinance, right?
Yeah. No, not the ordinance.
Not the-
I would,
the
I would
list-
say so.
Well, the ordinance and the other things that the commission, the Arts Commission is tasked to do. But
I think we're talking about something.
I don't like this presentation for the public.
I agree.
Okay.
Is there someone who'd be willing to work with me on
I will.
doing this, Michael? Okay.
Absolutely.
So Michael and I will work on this, and we'll bring it back to you guys in a different format. Excellent, thank you. Excellent.
I'd also like to say that I thought that the visioning process was much more successful than I thought it would be. And I think we came up with some good ideas.
Okay, and my last commissioner comment is, in her absence, I really want to extend appreciation and gratitude to Mimi Moore, for the years, and I don't know how to count the number, but I think it's 7 or so years that she served with such grace and such expertise on this commission, and I know she is really, I don't know how we're going to replace Mimi with her knowledge of public art and just everything else that she brought, a certain classiness and way of dealing with things. She was strong and yet very easy to listen to.
Easy to work with.
And easy to work with, and Mimi!
We're gonna miss her.
We really are going to miss. So a big thank you to Mimi. If anyone else wants to add to that, please feel free.
Is she going to come back so we can say goodbye?
Well, I think we need to figure a party, don't you?
I think so.
I think we should have a party at my house. I have a sculpture for you all to look at. You're invited, Savaro. You've been there. Okay, hearing no other comments, we'll go to Savaro. Laura, thank you, Savaro.
Thank you, and I apologize for not being here. I had to misscheduled my daughter's performance for Oh Yes, so I had to go. Obviously,
Except you went to an arts event, that's
yes, I did go to an arts event, and she did great. It was Mulan, by the way, but I do want to first of all always appreciate coming to your meetings and seeing how much work you obviously put into this commission. You are invaluable, I think, for the city and the amount of work that you do for us. So just to start that off, and I know this is my last meeting for this quarter, so I'll be going to some other commission's meeting. But there were a couple of things that I always shy away to participate during the meeting because I feel it's your forum and it's your decision making, and I don't want to possibly bring up different ideas and opinions. I think it's important for a council member just to hear what you guys are discussing and perceiving in an open point of view, open to all opinions and suggestions and concerns, etc. But a couple of things that are happening in our agenda, and I was trying to look at it, and things that pop up to me right away is we've been really trying to work on developing our website and social media options. And again, it goes with tuning into what's there right now in the technology and putting into, I think we're budgeting about $20,000 onto that item. And it's always been, I guess, a good improvement to our city or city tools to have that. And I think it could be very instrumental to all our commissions, because it seems like our commissions are trying to implement that, whether it be to put an application online, whether to have a Facebook or have an interactive website. So I'm really excited about this, and I think that it's a start, and I think that it's something that we all could work together on. Just going down the list, we also obviously adopting the budget or wanting to see if we're ready to adopt the budget. and talking about other people that are asking for money. And just on the side note, I know that there was one council member that had her reservations about particular programs. But just keep in mind, I felt coming out of that meeting that not all the council members are not ignorant to the value in your programs. And I know we're talking about the Ojai Art right now and the mentor. I see the value in each program, and I see how many intangibles there are. And also knowing, I do believe I saw a line item in the amount next to Ojai, the Ojai Arts. So just to clarify that, I just want to see if our staff could provide you. I think we're given a pack in how you wanted to separate all the money that you were suggesting. So I just want to, and I heard that it was all donation. So that's just a point of clarity. I don't know if we could provide that information, or if you could. Yes.
Do you want me to answer you?
Yes.
We wanted to expand the program.
Oh,
We
okay.
wanted to have workshops for artists, and we wanted to have several workshops during the year. And that's why we asked for funds this year. We didn't use any funds before.
Okay, and I think-
But we wanted to
yeah.
expand that.
See, and that's really good. And I don't know if you guys are getting our agendas and our item because it was on the agenda last week that we were discussing splitting the $50,000, 10 to 40, and I don't know if that was made clear to you guys that maybe having you guys participate would be a good thing. So, but again, it's a point of clarity. Maybe we could use the technology nowadays to eliminate that misunderstanding, so you don't feel blindsided. Because as a council member, we do appreciate every commission's time, and we definitely don't want there to be miscommunication or misconceptions about we're trying to just throw you guys into a pool and we don't take your suggestions into consideration. So anything else? I mean, we are talking about something else that might be good, because looking through your packets, I see that you guys had a list of possible the projects that might involve public art, like the Mallory Way, and we are going to be talking about possibly neighborhood planning, which could have effect on public art. So that's something to keep an eye on. We're going to be doing a RFP on that, so that's down the future. And then also down the future, that we're also going to be talking about our goal settings, and actually talking about going to each neighborhood and possibly involving the commission. We haven't hashed it out within the council, but that's an option. So that's something to keep in mind too. So I do agree with Mayor Strobel that some form of this should be presented to the council, and we should work it out and see how we're gonna involve it in our goal. And I think that it'd be smart just for every commission to do that. So I do agree with her presenting this to us, and at least for us, whether it be on the document format, or whether it be at the first of the month where you report on it, it's just good for the communication going. And Chair Golden has done this fantastic job coming to all our meetings and keeping us up to date of what you guys are doing. So it's been really informative. So thank you. And then I'll take any questions if you have. Okay. Well, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
We're going to miss you. Thanks for coming to our meeting.
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right, if no one has anything else, we are actually going to adjourn the meeting.
Well,
Roger?
Yeah, I have one thing. I just realized that since we have a revised budget from the city council, we need to redistribute our.
Well, we
It
don't
hasn't been
yet.
voted on yet.
But we don't
It
yet.
hasn't been voted on yet.
Right.
That's why I was asking, do you want me to go and fight for it? You don't, so.
But you're correct, we should come back at the July meeting, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I did have that thought earlier, and I'll make a note of that now, because you're correct, we do need to have some discussion. Okay. Okay.
What was that, Linda?
Oh, so we're missing 2, okay.
I won't be at that meeting. I will be out of state until the 23rd.
That's 2.
Well, if anybody else knows, please let us know as soon as possible, so we
Yes.
can ensure we have a quorum.
And at our July meeting, we always talk about whether we're going to have an August meeting, so.
What is the date of the July meeting?
That's the 17th?
Would you send that down to Roger? Thank you. Okay, adjourned.
Mr. Roger? So you and I are going to the city council meeting on Tuesday? Final
Sounds
decision?
like it, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yep, let me turn off the camera and the